Everything you've been told about losing belly fat is backwards, and I'm living proof of that. So in the next couple of minutes, I'm gonna show you exactly how to lose 10 pounds of stubborn belly fat over the next 60 days without starving yourself, without having to track your macros, without doing a bunch of cardio, so that you can simplify your process and get better results. See, there's one thing that 99% of guys completely neglect when it comes to fat loss, but it's really the number one most important thing if you want your body to turn into a fat burning machine, and that is metabolism. And this is something for years that I neglected and never realized. And there was points in my life where I was in shape, out of shape, but the thing is, I never truly got the abs, the definition in my shoulders, the muscles that I wanted until I understood this. Because I was tracking my macros. I was training 5-6 days a week. And all I wanted was to build a lean physique so that I can feel confident about myself, so I could be proud of who I was. Because I was always so insecure growing up. I was a smaller guy and I couldn't ever put the muscle on that I wanted. I'd look at other people who had these steroid level physiques and I was like, bro, there's no way. They have to be cheating. They have to be juicing. Little did I know, they knew this one secret I didn't, right? And I understand what it's like to be showing up, doing the training, eating what you think is clean and not seeing results, and it's discouraging. And your goals start to feel like they're dwindling away, like it's not even reality. And that's how I felt. And as a result of that, my confidence went in the gutter, my self-talk plummeted, I was really, really hard on myself, and I was beating myself up a lot. And every day kind of felt like hell, because I would look in the mirror and truly hate what I saw looking back at me. Not just the man physically, but the man inside. Because I knew I had this God-given potential that I wasn't tapping into and I wasn't living up to. And that haunted me. That made me feel like a coward. It made me feel like a loser. But once I understood this, I broke through not just my fitness plateau, but any mental plateau I had. I started to look at myself differently. I started to feel proud of who I was, started to feel confident, started to achieve more in life because the confidence I built through my physique compounded and snowballed into me making more money in my business, me moving to Florida, me breaking up with my girlfriend, me starting another business and then quitting my job eventually, and just doing all these things I never thought possible for myself, all because I mastered my physique. Because when you build a strong body, you build a strong mind. And you start to break down the walls of limitation, the more jacked, the more shredded you get. So I'm gonna show you guys how to melt 10 pounds of belly fat over the next 60 days in the easiest way possible. You're gonna be so much more shredded than you think by following this method, right? And it's gonna be life-changing for you as it was for me. So let's dive into the video. I'm gonna break down how fixing my metabolism helped me melt 10 pounds of belly fat in 60 days. I didn't do any cardio, I didn't track any macros. It was so easy to lose that last layer of belly fat because of how simple and effective this system is that I'm about to show you. So as you can see here, I had that last layer of belly fat, right? It was kind of like a muffin top rolling over my shorts, but now it's completely gone. This is just within 60 days. As you can see here, you can't really see my abs. My definition isn't anything that special, but in here, you can see all my abs. You can see my obliques. You can see how rounded my shoulders are now and how I look way better. And again, this is just in 60 days. And I also shaved the body hair because body hair was blocking my abs. Now that I have them, I wanted to show them off. And as you can see here, I had that belly fat, the little love handle. Now it's completely gone. And this system I'm gonna break down for you is so seamless, so easy to follow. And if you implement this, I promise you that last layer of fat, 10 pounds, is going to evaporate over the next 60 days. So first let's dive into what I didn't do, because this is what most men think is necessary, but this is what I did not do. I didn't starve myself. I didn't do any cardio. I didn't have to track macros, and I didn't do any 2-hour-long gym sessions, okay? I kept it really simple, and that's what made it so effective, because most men can't stay consistent. And if you're unable to stay consistent, you won't get results, because you might get a little bit of results in the beginning no matter what you're doing, whether it's carnivore or keto. But if you hate what you're doing, it's not gonna last. And belly fat, especially stubborn belly fat, is the last thing to go. As men, we hang on to belly fat more than anything else. So you'll notice about yourself when you start losing weight, you'll lose it in your face maybe your arms, maybe your legs, But the last thing to go is that belly fat. So if you want to finally see your abs and feel good about yourself, you have to stay consistent. And this is why most guys can't. Let's start with diet. First of all, most guys think they need to eat less. They think tracking macros is the only way to see progress. They think as long as I hit my macros, the quality of the food doesn't actually matter. And they also think if they eat healthy, they'll lose fat. Now, all of these things are untrue, and we'll dive into why in a moment. But first, let me continue explaining why most men stay stuck and why they can't stay consistent. This is their beliefs around training. They think training 5 to 7 days a week is optimal. They think cardio is the key to fat loss. They think training abs helps you lose belly fat. They also think if I train more, if I train longer, I'll get better results. All not true. Now, let's dive into what they think about lifestyle. They think, oh, sleep doesn't matter, if I eat and if I train right. Untrue. They think stress doesn't affect fat loss. Untrue. Recovery just means taking a day off from the gym. That is false. And also they think mindset doesn't affect fat loss. These are the common beliefs that most men who are currently in a plateau believe, and that's why they're staying stuck, because none of this stuff is true, and I'm going to explain why. If you believe any of this bullshit, it's keeping you stuck. Not only are those beliefs not true or optimal, but you're overcomplicating fitness. And melting stubborn belly fat and building lean muscle is not about doing more, it's about doing less, but doing it with more intention. It's not, it's not more workouts that you need, it's not more ab workouts, it's not more cardio. It's not more tracking macros. It's not starving yourself. It's about doing less and having more intention with, in fact, I spelled that wrong. Having more intention with what you actually are doing. And if you hate your diet, if you hate your training routine, and you're not recovering, you won't stay consistent. If you're doing carnivore and keto, but you hate it, how do you expect to stay consistent? If you want to sustain your fat loss, if you want to get the fat off you forever, you're going to have a routine for the rest of your life. You might as well make it something that you love so it doesn't feel like you're straining yourself. It doesn't feel like work. You need to love your routine so you can sustain it and get results forever, but most importantly, keep those results. There's a reason why my clients are getting in great shape and they're staying in great shape. It's because they love what they do, and same with me. I love what I do and I could do this for the rest of my life, so I'm not going to get fat. And that's why you have to love what you do. Now, the real secret to building lean muscle and melting stubborn belly fat isn't tracking macros. It's not all the things I listed above. All right? What it actually is your BMR and your metabolism. Your basal metabolic rate is the number of calories your body burns at rest. So think of your BMR as your metabolism when you're sitting on your ass doing nothing, and it accounts for 70% of your total daily energy expenditure, influenced by lean body mass, your thyroid function, sleep, and micronutrient status. That's going to be the main drivers for having a high metabolism. So think about this. When you're doing cardio, when you're in the gym and you're training, that's your 9 to 5 income. You can only burn calories doing those things when you're actually in the act of doing them. So you're burning calories when you're lifting weights, but the second you stop, you're not. You're burning calories when you're doing cardio, but the second you stop, you're not. But your metabolism, if you focused on that, which is 70% of the amount of calories you actually burn, that's your passive income. That's how you get your body burning fat when you're sitting on your ass doing nothing. And what's going to impact how high your metabolism is your amount of lean body mass, your thyroid function, your sleep, and your micronutrient status. And we're going to dive deeper into this. So if your metabolism is suppressed, and the main suppressants are poor diet, stress, lack of micronutrients, your BMR is going to drop. And that means even if you're eating healthy, your body may not be burning those calories efficiently. So it doesn't matter if you're hitting your macros. It doesn't matter if you're in a 1,000 calorie deficit. If your BMR gets tanked, you're going to struggle to lose fat. It's going to be very difficult for you to lose fat without having a high metabolism. But when you have a high metabolism, you lose fat on autopilot. So in order to optimize metabolism, you number one obviously need to build muscle, lean muscle specifically, because muscle is metabolically active. Meaning, the more lean muscle you have, the more fat your body burns at a rested state. So the more muscular you get, the easier it is for your body to burn fat. That's why it's more important to focus on building muscle than it is doing cardio. You also need to optimize your gut health, because if your gut is impaired and you have inflammation in your gut, your metabolism cannot thrive. Your gut is one of the biggest drivers for metabolism. So in order to have good gut health, you need to prioritize micronutrients over macros and calories. And you also need to get good sleep quality and manage stress, because if your cortisol levels are high, if your stress levels are high, that causes inflammation in your body, which doesn't allow you to get good sleep, doesn't allow you to get good recovery, and all of your muscle growth happens during the recovery phase, which is mainly when you sleep. So if you're not able to recover properly, you're not going to build lean muscle. And as we mentioned earlier, your lean muscle is actually what makes you burn fat. So you need to have a high metabolism. So this is a little image to show you. Calories in, right? Because everybody knows calories in, calories out. Your calories in is determined by two things: what you eat and what you drink. But your calories out isn't just your exercise. It's also your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. It's the thermic effect of food, but it's mainly your BMR. So your exercise, your training, and your cardio accounts for 5% of how many calories you actually burn in a day, aka how much fat you actually burn. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis is 15%. This is if you have a bunch of lean muscle, that's going to account for 15% of your calorie burn. So as you can see, building lean muscle is way more important than doing any cardio or any exercise whatsoever. And then the thermic effect of food. When you're eating thermogenic foods, which we'll dive into, you can literally burn calories by eating food, and that's more effective than any cardio you can do. And then as a whole, your BMR is going to be the main driver for how much fat you can actually burn. So now that you have a general understanding of how the body works and what needs to happen so you can start melting fat over the next 60 days like I did and like my clients do, here's the exact routine that I use to melt 10 pounds of stubborn belly fat in 60 days without cardio, without tracking macros, and why it's more efficient. So let's start with diet. This is all you need to do with your diet if you want to start literally evaporating fat. You need to focus on 90% whole foods that are thermogenic, like eggs, like beef, like fruit. Those will be your main drivers. Whole foods are going to fuel your metabolism. When you eat whole foods that are good for your gut, good for your health, you can eat more food because it's going to fuel your metabolism, which is going to raise your BMR and get your body burning calories. Think about you eating whole foods as you depositing money into the bank, and think about withdrawing money from the bank as your body burning fat. If you want your body to be able to keep making withdrawals and keep burning fat, you need to keep making deposits and fueling your metabolism with whole foods. If you can make sure those foods are thermogenic, like eggs, beef, and fruit, you're also adding on the extra calorie burn from just digesting the food. Now you've hacked the system. You also need to make sure you're prioritizing your micronutrients over macronutrients, because your micronutrients are going to determine how well your body can absorb the macronutrients, and it's also going to determine how good or bad your gut health is. And as we established, if you have improper gut health, you can't have high metabolism, and your body's going to be turning off. It's not going to be working for you, and it's not going to be a fat-burning machine. So prioritize micronutrients. And obviously, foods like eggs, beef, and fruit contain those micronutrients, and they're thermogenic. So this could be your core right here. Optimize your gut health, all right? You're going to want to take probiotics and prebiotics, eat fermented foods. You're going to want to make sure you're not eating processed foods, seed oils, things that are going to cause inflammation. Make sure you focus on gut health, because people think gut health is just about lack of disease, not getting sick, and all these things, but they don't understand Gut health is the key component to muscle gain and to fat loss. So you have to focus on your gut health. And then all you need to do instead of tracking is just make sure you're getting a minimum of 40 grams of protein per meal, and make sure within that meal, one of the foods you're eating is a thermogenic food. And we'll go a little deeper on that in a moment, but you should be able to have an idea whether or not your meal has 40 grams of protein. You could take any lean meat and put it to your fist, and as long as it's the size of your fist, you're probably good to go. But you could just read the back of the label, whether it's ground beef, whether it's chicken, whether it's fish, whether it's eggs, whatever it might be, and you could pretty much figure out, you don't need to track, you could figure out whether or not you're eating 40 grams of protein, and then make sure there's a thermogenic food within the diet. And then for weightlifting, only lift weights 4 days per week and no more than 4. Because as we've established, for you to build lean muscle, recovery is going to be way more important than any workout that you do. So therefore, when you train 4 days a week, you're giving your body the time it needs to repair and recover, which is going to build more muscle than you overtraining, not allowing your body to recover, which is going to increase cortisol levels, which is going to tank metabolism. So if you want to have a high metabolism, make sure you're only lifting 4 days a week. And this is very sustainable. And same with the diet, because with the diet, you can eat more foods. That's sustainable. With the training, lifting 4 days a week, much more sustainable. And then focus on lower reps and higher intensity. The reason this is important is because when you're in a calorie deficit, which if you're going to lose weight, you will be, you need to focus on making sure you are maintaining and trying to increase your strength with heavier weights to signal to your body to hold on to as much lean muscle as possible and only burn fat. And the more you do lower reps and higher intensity, the shorter your workouts are going to be, yet the more effective they're going to be, especially with the 4 days of working out so you can get recovery. And this is very sustainable, right? This is what I did. And then finish each muscle group with a drop set. Right? A drop set is where maybe you go 100 pounds, 90 pounds, 80 pounds, and you're going to a failure. It's basically one prolonged set. And the reason that's important is because those micro tears in your muscles to end each muscle group is going to, number one, add more time under tension, which is how you build muscle. But number two, it's going to spike your BMR and keep your body and your metabolism thriving for hours post-workout. So doing low reps, higher weight with higher intensity, but then finishing your last set with a drop set. And then walk 10 to 15K steps. This is the best way to burn fat because walking is super non-taxing on your body, allowing you to continue recovery. It's also not going to eat into your muscle, right? Whereas jogging, that's going to eat into your muscle and it's going to spike cortisol. Walking keeps you calm, it relieves stress, it's amazing for cortisol levels, but it also burns calories by you simply just doing a walk. And it's very sustainable. 10 to 15K steps is so easy to get. If you work a desk job, just take longer walks to the bathroom. On lunch break, go for a little couple steps. It's really not hard to do. And then lifestyle, you need to make sure that you're getting 8 hours of deep quality sleep. So try and go to bed and wake up around the same time every night, and that's where the morning sunlight comes into play as well. Something called your circadian rhythm dictates when your body knows it's time for bed and knows when it's time to wake up. And the more scheduled that can be, the deeper sleep you're going to get, the more recovered you're going to be, and your body's going to be able to produce more serotonin, more dopamine. So you're actually going to start to feel happier. You're going to have way more energy, which is going to allow you to feel way more motivated and get way more done. And the more you get done, the less anxiety you feel, the happier you are as a human being, the more productive you are, the closer you're getting to your goals. You need to get that sleep for your muscle growth as well. As we've established, recovery happens during rest. So if you want to perform and be the best version of yourself, 8 hours of deep quality sleep is key. So take magnesium biglycinate 30 minutes before bed. Pop some blue light blockers on before bed. Those are great things you could do. And then, of course, morning sunlight. Morning sunlight is going to regulate your circadian rhythm. You're going to get vitamin D, which is essential for your energy levels, your lack thereof inflammation, right? Because the less inflammation you have, the better your muscles can grow. So you need to get sunlight in to make sure that your body has the vitamin D it needs. And then stress management. If you're stressed out, you're not going to be recovering as well as you should be. And who the hell wants to be stressed anyways? Something very, very powerful is breath work. each morning or anytime you're feeling overwhelmed, you take 3 rounds of 10 deep breaths in through the nose, controlled breaths out through the mouth. What this does is it immediately lowers your cortisol levels. It calms your mind so you could think better and make better level-headed decisions, which is important in business, obviously. It's important in relationships. It's important for muscle growth. And then journaling your thoughts, journaling what you want from life. This is another form of stress relief. A lot of my clients are in love with journaling because instead of, letting your brain go crazy and overthinking, you could put things onto paper and just get it out. Now, if this stuff was helpful for you, let me show you what your next steps need to be. Go to my YouTube, and I'm going to put the link in the description, and watch this video, The Secret to Get to 10% Body Fat Without Cardio or Tracking Macros. Because in that video, I teach you what thermogenic foods you need to eat. I explain this in deeper depth. I give you more lifestyle tips, more diet tips. So if you really want to bang the nail in the coffin, if you feel like this is helpful, if you feel like this routine is the routine for you, go watch this video. I'm putting the link in the description. So watch that video next. And if you're not already, subscribe to my channel, like the video, comment if it was helpful. But I'm going to put this in the description for you guys. I hope this was helpful. Now listen, keep it simple. The simpler you can keep it, the better results you're going to get. So watch this video over if you need to. Take notes. But I hope this was helpful, guys.